Welcome back to another episode of Dogs on the Couch, where everybody's allowed to have an opinion. It does not matter if you played the game you were watching. So you're allowed to have an opinion as well. Please, like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, subscribe. Let's set a goal, right? Let's try to get to 100 subscribers. Please help your boy out. Help me reach 100 subscribers. You can help me out by simply clicking that button. It's free of charge, doesn't cost you a thing. It also helps grow the channel, as well as push these videos into the algorithm so that like-minded people may have a chance to view them also. Now, with that out the way, let's address the Cleveland Cavalier chaos, man. Needless to say, I'm very disappointed, very distraught. Being the fanatic that I am, I had to take some time to like decompress and you know what I'm saying? Like, well, how the players do. I had to take some time to decompress, man. Think about what happened, go over some things, you know what I'm saying? Watch a little bit of, film and stuff like that to try to see where we went wrong and everything. And, you know, after doing my assessments and coming back to the drawing board, there were a couple things that I wanted to address. One is clearly and obvious. We can start with that, which is Kenny Atkinson. If you've been following me here, it's clear how I feel about Kenny Atkinson and what I felt like should have happened with Kenny Atkinson. However, before I go into my spiel, let's listen to what Kobe Altman had to say about Kenny Atkinson.
I mean, we heard a lot of noise after that loss to the Knicks, which was unfortunate. I don't think it was a story. There was never a conversation about Kenny at all. When we win as an organization, we win as an organization. When we lose as an organization, we all own it, and there doesn't always have to be a fall guy. Kenny has been remarkable the last 2 years. I mean, if you just zoom out and look at his resume, right? 64 wins last year, coach of the year, gets us to a conference semis. This year we get better, right, in terms of our playoff success, get to a conference finals. 52 wins. I think the most extraordinary part of Kenny this year was that we, out of the gate, we were hurt and beat up and a lot of starters missing from the start of the season. And we go 17-16. For him to stabilize that with 41 different starting lineups, I think was incredible. And to get us back to 52 wins. He's able to move and adjust on the fly really, really well. We trade for James Harden, add a couple pieces, obviously, in Dennis, Keon at the deadline. And now we have to shift and change the way we play a little bit, or dramatically in some cases. And he was able to adapt and make it bold and build around that. So to get us back to 52 wins, home court in the first round, which was huge.
Now, I don't mean to cut him off because I'm going to let him finish here. But if you notice, a lot of the things that he's speaking of, he's got to go back in time to talk about these things. It's a lot of the stuff that he's talking about is not what took place in this basketball season. Let him finish, though.
He's done a remarkable job. And, obviously, the question about the player development, which we brought him in for, to make sure we have a stable pipeline to continue our growth. Jalen Tyson, Tyrese Proctor, Craig Porter Jr., like all these guys have elevated even the Sam Merrill, right? Like have elevated themselves as basketball players under him. And so it's easy to point to the loud loss and just say, man, like we all want some of those possessions back, coach included, players included. We want that series. I want that series back, right? But we have to own that as an organization. How can we get better? The players own it too, right? And so this is not a Kenny discussion. It never was a Kenny discussion. It was an organizational discussion of how we can break through to that next level. But I think if you're looking at his resume in totality, the last 2 years have really been remarkable from a record standpoint, from a player development standpoint, and obviously breaking through to a conference final is a real achievement for a head coach.
Okay, so what I found kind of infuriating outside of the fact that ultimately, we ended up keeping Kenny Atkinson. It was the fact that the same way Kenny came out and said, well, analytically, we won 2 out of the 3 games. You should never say that. Kobe, I don't think you should have said, like, it was bad enough how quick y'all hurried up and came out. Even Stephen A. Smith had something to say, and I mean, whether you agree with Stephen A. when he talk or whether you think he's just full of it. But even he came out like, I mean, okay, if you want to do that, fine. But to do it so quickly, to like not even make it seem like you gave it a deep thought or consideration. And then Kobe, for you to come out and say, yeah, we never at one point thought about getting rid of Kenny. Even when he said that crazy crap that he said that somehow we was winning analytically, even though we hadn't won a game in the series, but we were winning analytically. And then when he's praising Kenny, now I hear him, because the parts that was for this year in particular, it was mainly about managing through players being hurt in and out of the lineup, and basically just roster changes, and you got one round further in the playoffs. You made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay, surface level, that sounds great. That's amazing. Way to go. But when you dig deeper, you kind of find areas where you what did I hear him say on the It Is What It Is podcast, giving applause to a fish for swimming. So this is my thing. This is what I mean when I say that. I really honestly don't know a team that didn't deal with injuries. What team in the NBA didn't deal with injuries this year? I mean, past few years, injuries been all over basketball. Did we forget that that's one of the reasons the Cavs seem to have such a tailored path to the Eastern Conference Finals, if you will? Jason Tatum was hurt. He didn't play this year. He played, but I mean, he wasn't fully himself. And then when he came back, he played good for a little bit, then got right back hurt again. And Boston Celtics he didn't even play in Game 7 when they got eliminated. Then, not only that, Tyrese Halliburton didn't play all year for the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton wasn't playing. Mind you, that's the team that put us out last year in 5. Yeah, in 5. We got put out by them with Kenny coaching and all that great coaching and development and all this other garbage he was doing. We got beat by Tyrese Halliburton and a bunch of other guys that ain't do nothing, that clearly ain't that good, because they ain't do nothing with Tyrese Halliburton wasn't here this year. So clearly Neesmith and whoever else, Nimhard, clearly they wasn't that good. Because if they was, they would have been able to make a little bit more noise without Tyrese Halliburton. So, for me, the fact that you decided to keep Kenny so quick, and ignore the glaring thing, because, when he's talking about development and, with Proctor and Tyson, my thing with this, okay, if you was developing Tyson and you see him developing so great, why did you stunt his growth by snatching his role away when Max Strus came back? Or to just make sure that you keep starting Dean Wade? When you saw his development skyrocketing like that, you should have been like, okay, look, Dean Wade, just hold on a little while, man. We're going to have you come off the bench. You still you, but we're just going to have you come off the bench because Buddy cooking right now. So remember, this is a team game. What did Kobe say? We win as an organization, we lose as an organization. So, hey, Dean Wade, you should be all right with this young man. He cooking right now. So let's let him keep going. You're going to get your minutes. You're going to get some minutes. It's just going to come off the bench. That's all. So all these development pieces and woo, I don't understand. We didn't see none of these pieces being played, and they could have helped us, in the playoffs. So we didn't see none of that development then. Not only that, I feel like you took a step away, and I'm not saying completely away that you just don't want to do it, because you always want to develop young players, because you're always going to have one or two young players on the team. But when you made the trade to get James Harden, it was clear that you was making, this is like, we trying to win now. We in a window. We in like a maybe 3-year window, 4-year max window of trying to win the championship. We not in a, well, yeah, we going to take the next 2 to 3 years to develop a bunch of young guys, and then we should win then. No, we kind of in win now mode. So all this praise of how great Kenny doing with developing, you know what I'm saying? Well, that kind of went out the window when you made the trade. Like, we trying to win now. Win now, develop later is what I would be looking. That's what I'm thinking. If you got James Harden old butt on your team, and you getting ready to re-sign him possibly to a 2-year, maybe $50 million deal, I'm looking at trying to win now, not developing. That's on the back burner. We can still develop, but the number one priority is win, and win now. And so not only that, when you look at the team that did advance out of the Eastern Conference to the NBA Finals, well, they had a similar situation to what we had with Kenny. Now, the coaching styles are two polar opposites, but I'm just saying the way that it went down, which is, the Knicks reached a certain level, if you will. They slowly progressed. Each year it's like, all right, you make it to the next round, and then you make it to the next round after that. And then when it came time to when they felt like we should be making a jump to the Eastern Conference Finals, possibly even the NBA Finals, Tibbs wasn't able to fully, carry him to the finals, and it was made a big thing of him not using his bench players. And, Mikal Bridges come out saying, oh, playing enough bench players, man, we need to get some rest. We tired. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So it's like, all right, well, that's why they was tired. So, as good as Tibbs had done, building the Knicks into what they were with Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby and everything like that, the way that Tibbs built them up, they looked at Tibbs and was like, yeah, you've done a great job over these past couple seasons. You helped develop. You helped get us to where we needed to go. But we feel like we should have been able to make it to the finals, and you didn't get us there. And we trying to make it to the finals. We not trying to just keep celebrating, oh, we made it to the Eastern Conference thing. Oh, we got there. Ooh, whoop-de-doo. No, we trying to get to the finals. And we trying to win when we get there. So they didn't have no problem. Even I wasn't on board with it. Honestly, I wasn't on board with firing Tibbs, especially not to hire Mike Brown. I wasn't on board with it. But, a city with real expectations that really want to get it done, is really trying to make it move. They wasn't trying to coddle the coach. And, well, look at all the great things that he's done. It's like, yeah, but maybe it's time to move on from Buddy and get somebody else, because we trying to make it to the ship. We want to go to the ship. And then lo and behold, the very next season, under Mike Brown, they end up eliminating you, Cleveland Cavaliers, and then making it to the NBA Finals. And again, what they did was they took advantage of a season that was set, that was open for what anybody in the Eastern Conference who wanted it. It was there for the taking. And if you ask me, in that Eastern Conference Finals, it was the coaching. It wasn't the talent. People who wanted to say, oh, well, the talent, the Cavs didn't have a talent. I heard Jay Williams on ESPN arguing with Kendrick Perkins. You feel like this is a talented roster? Yeah, that roster is more talented than, like, come on, man. Let's not do that. Let's not go there, man. Let's not go there. Mitchell Robinson, I'm taking Jared Allen over Mitchell Robinson. Evan Mobley and Karl Anthony Towns, yeah, you can say Karl Anthony Towns, but Evan Mobley ain't no slouch, but he got a Defensive Player of the Year up under his belt. Okay? Then you got Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. I'm just saying, okay, you got Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson. If you ask me, that's a wash. That's a wash. Brunson better than Harden, but Donovan Mitchell better than Josh Hart. And then you got OG Anunoby, and good Lord, if we was able to put Jalen Tyson there, boom, now you got a wash. We got the talent. And now what we had was a coach who wanted to start Dean Wade, because he just felt like if Dean Wade's defense wasn't out there, that, oh, the Cavs are just no good now. But with all that great defense that Dean Wade was playing, it didn't stop the Knicks from scoring what seemed to be like at will for the most part. Just manipulating the defense, doing whatever it is that they wanted to do. A lot of it was just leak out running too. We couldn't even get people to just get back on defense. Make or miss. When we put a shot up, they already at the other end of the court. Layup. And then Kenny refuses to play any of the guys, and then want to turn around and say, oh, I think a lot of it is just fatigue. And then you talk about guys missing shots due to fatigue, but you won't play any of the players off the bench. The same thing Tom Thibodeau got fired for, because his starters was gassed, and they felt like that's why they lost and couldn't make it to the finals. And they felt like if maybe Tibbs had played some people off the bench a little bit more, they would have been able to make it to the NBA finals. So how could they identify that, move on from that coach, get a different coach, make it to the finals? But we like, oh no, we didn't even think about it. It wasn't even a thought in our mind. When Tibbs didn't come out saying no stupid stuff like, yeah, well, analytically, we won that series. Tibbs ain't say nothing like that. It was just the fact that he was so, dedicated to the starters, and he wouldn't play none of the people off the bench. Only person I think he would play off the bench was Deuce McBride, and that's it. Or maybe Mitchell Robinson sometimes. But that's it. Nobody else off the bench would get no minutes. Same thing that Kenny did. Only people that would get minutes off the bench is Max Strus and Sam Merrill. And then sometimes you get your Dennis Schroeder. But that's it. Nobody else got no minutes. Unless we was already getting our butts kicked by 30. Then all of a sudden he want to give minutes. He want to put them in the game. So the starters, man, that's what I wanted to get out the whole Kenny Atkinson thing. I'm flabbergasted. My mind is blown. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I think I'm gonna have to do the same thing I did with the Browns, where I was saying, I'm gonna watch, I'm gonna cover, you know what I'm saying? But I can't be a fanatic about it. Like, I can't cheer for him. I can't live and die with every single pass or every single run play or every single down until Kevin Stefanski is up out of here. And that's what I did. I may have to apply the same thing here, because it seems like this soft nature that we have, it seems to be coming from the top down. Kobe Altman, Kenny Atkinson, and then even Donovan Mitchell and James Harden coming out defending, Kenny. Oh, because he's such a player. And I ain't saying that they were supposed to come out and say nothing bad about Kenny, but I'm just saying, hey, look, indifferent. It is what it is. I don't even want to talk about Kenny right now. I'm too mad about losing and just don't even address it. Because when y'all just so gung-ho about him being the player's coach, what that's telling me is, I think y'all like the fact that he not on you. He not saying, pause. He not on you, on y'all butts about playing defense, about getting back on defense, about jacking up shots and you not getting back on defense, about dribble, and you turn the ball over. You dribble, turn the ball over. And Kenny like, oh, no, it's still a good play. Don't worry. Analytically, we were supposed to get that one. No. I need a coach holding people accountable. Hey, stop turning the ball over. Harden, you turn the ball over again like this, buddy, I'm going to have you come over here and sit by me, and then we'll see what you do the next game. But today, you can't keep turning the ball over, and then we lose in this 22-point lead. You turn the ball over, and then on the other end, Jalen Brunson just cooking you. I need a coach that's going to be able to do that. Not a coach that's just, nothing's really wrong. Even when we down 3-0, well, analytically, we're up 2-1. So everything's cool. Everything's fine. We had a successful season. No, I don't want that, man. I want somebody that's upset. I want somebody that's distraught. I want somebody that's like, man, I wanted to win this. We should have had him. We had him. I should have called timeout. Like, that's the coach that I want. I should have called timeout. Why did I call timeout? I should have called timeout. And then it's like, you know what, man, I would respect you for just, acknowledging. And then hopefully, hey, well, now the coach learns, and maybe next year, and then I'm cool with you coming back because you acknowledge it. It's accountability. You know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, well, maybe next year if you're in that situation, you call timeout, and then we don't have to worry about this anymore. You know what I mean? And then maybe next year you learn to play Jalen Tyson a few more minutes, or Keon Ellis maybe, or Thomas Bryant maybe. The same Thomas Bryant that was on that Indiana Pacers team that kicked your butt the previous year and sent you home 4-1. Because if I'm Thomas Bryant, that, matter of fact, it was a statement that had came out about the bench players that it was, it was like documented that it was players that was on the bench that was, kind of disgruntled, about their roles or whatever, or like the minutes that they have been getting, throughout the course of, the playoffs and everything like that. And when that came out, I was, kind of saying to myself, I'm like, that's kind of ironic that something like that would come out, because you could kind of look at it and see. You could look at it and tell, because, if you've watched the team and you notice the players that that, a little bit better, or maybe that could help you, win some games or different things like that, you wonder to yourself after a while, like, man, but why is he not getting any minutes, man? And then not only that, as like I was saying before, as the players, like stuff that Kenny would hold Jalen Tyson accountable for, I would watch Dean Wade do the exact same thing, but you don't punish Dean Wade the same way that you punish Jalen Tyson when he would just have a turnover, or maybe he had a missed rotation. Maybe he got beat back door one time or something like that. And then that one play is all it would take for you to pull him and then him not see the court anymore. Not just the rest of that game, but he won't see the court anymore for the rest of that series. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. So I found that to be funny that that little statement had came out, man. That report had leaked, that there were some bench players that were, just kind of disgruntled, man, about how their minutes, had been dispersed throughout the playoffs. I'm like, yeah, man, those guys probably, felt like if I was getting some more minutes, I could help, I could help the team win. So that's gonna lead me into this next piece. Let's listen to what Kobe had to say about Jalen Tyson in specific.
We need him. And again, talking to him, he was disappointed in his overall playoff performance, and I think it was just that was tied to shot making. But you could tell how much we needed him, even in some of these these later series. Just his toughness, his tenacity on the boards, the fact that he could pick up full. We were again to get him at 20 last year, really huge because he's going to be a big part of what we do, especially on rookie scale, right? And so he's always going to outplay his coverage, if you will, in terms of his contract. He's a big part of our future. We need his tenacity, his toughness, his defense, his shot making, and the fact that he put himself in a position to be a real rotational player on a conference finals team speaks to who he is as a person, his work ethic, his drive, his hunger. He was equally as disappointed. He could have been in here like, man, I'm playing with house's money. I'm a second-year guy. I was playing the playoffs.
Okay, I can't take no more. I can't, because how does that sound? Oh, we're gonna need him, and oh my God, he worked his way into being, a definite rotational piece, on the Eastern Conference Finals team. I didn't see him out there. Yeah, I was watching the rotations. If you go back and look at my videos, some of the videos I was doing while the game, I'm watching the fourth quarter of the game, and starting the video while I'm doing. I didn't see Jalen Tyson out there. So what you mean he was a rotational piece? He earned his way into being a rotational piece on the Eastern Conference. I didn't see him out there. When I seen him out there is when we was getting our butts kicked by 30. That's when I seen him out there. Yeah, I didn't see him out there no other time. I was pounding the table. I wanted to see him out there. And then you talking about his toughness, his tenacity on defense, and his shot making and all this other stuff. Yeah, a bunch of stuff that you could have used to help, win some of these games, to help close out against Toronto, to help close out against the Detroit Pistons, and to help you win game one against the New York Knicks. But you would not play that young man. So how is I'm supposed to believe you when you say that he's such this big part of your future going forward, and he's such this great rotational piece and all this? How is I'm supposed to believe that? When I'm watching the games and I'm watching the head coach kill that kid's confidence, man. I'm watching the head coach tamper with that young man's confidence and potentially stunt his growth as a result of it. Because I believe that that's where he was struggling in the playoffs. Because you stunted the kid's growth, man. He was blossoming. He was a budding player. And then all of a sudden, his role gets snatched from under him so that we can cater to Dean Wade and Max Strus. Only to turn around, and when we needed Dean Wade and Max Strus the most, they out there laying eggs and being a minus on the court. Well, I could have Jalen Tyson out there struggling. If that's what I'm gonna do. At least he can provide, like Kobe say, some tenacity and toughness on defense. At least I know he's gonna fight. Like, that's at the absolute bare minimum. So Kobe, it's really hard, man, for me to believe you when I hear you saying some stuff like that. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think you're telling the truth. I don't think you're being honest about that, man. And then, let's listen to more Kobe kind of just blaming, everything on quote unquote shot making. Let's take a listen.
Well, I will say that we missed a lot of open shots, and that's not a get better thing, right? I don't know if that was legs. I don't know what it was. You get to this level, shot making matters, and so when looking back at that series, and again, we need to zoom out again and just take stock on where we are as a franchise. But that series in particular, we missed a number of open shots, and so shot making was big. Matching their offense was a big part. And so, from a basketball standpoint, I still think we were doing some really good things. I believe wholeheartedly in the personnel that we have. I think we have enough talent in house. That doesn't mean you can't reconfigure, retool, bring in some aspects that we can get better at. But I think the biggest question was, were we going to be tough enough? Were we going to be able to compete? And we went through 2 knockdown, drag-out series, some of the most physical series that we've seen, and emerged. Won a Game 7 on the road. So we answered a lot of those questions. And now there's another step that we need to take, and we're gonna dive deep and figure that out. That's a good question.
Yeah, and so for me, I believe it came down to more than just the shot making, because even with you not making shots, you still had opportunities to close out games earlier in your first 2 series and not have them go to Game 7s, and even in that New York Knicks series, because it was clear after Game 1, the team kind of just gave up, especially Games 3 and 4. They gave up, but you could tell how big of a letdown it was in Game 1. So as much as you weren't making shots, not playing any defense was also a major contributor to you going home. And again, you had defenders sitting on your bench. Jalen Tyson, Keon Ellis, and the coach wouldn't give him any run. So again, when you say, well, I mean, we got the talent on the roster. Okay, well, you didn't use them. Then you say, not to say that we won't, outsource or try to get some, bring some other pieces in that we may need or whatever. Okay, like you traded to get Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder, who was supposed to be pieces that we could use, that we would need, and then lo and behold, you didn't use Keon Ellis. So Kobe, even if you do bring some other pieces in that we need or whatever, who's to say that Kenny finna use them? He'll use them throughout the regular season. Then when the postseason comes, the only people he want to play is Max Strus and Dean Wade. And not only that, let me just quick tidbit. Let me throw this in. I believe Dean Wade is a free agent this year. When I found out, I was like, yes. And then when I found out we was keeping Kenny Atkinson, I'm like, no. Because I'm pretty sure the very first thing that they're going to do right after they sign James Harden, after they do that thing with James Harden, they're going to re-up Dean Wade so he can come back as the starting small forward for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And it's going to be yet another reason why I'm like, hey, I got to put my fandom on hold here for a little while until Kenny Atkinson, I'm doing that on purpose. Kenny Atkinson is up out of here. Okay? Because a lot of this stuff, just respectfully, man, a lot of this stuff is starting to sound similar to the excuses that we was making for Kevin Stefanski and keeping a hold of him. Okay? Like, you can watch somebody not doing certain things that they should be doing as a coach, but then go to he won Coach of the Year. He has a Coach of the Year award. Kenny won the Coach of the Year award last year. Okay, he won the Coach of the Year award and then got beat 4 games to 1 by the Indiana Pacers. I don't understand. The same way that Kevin Stefanski won that Coach of the Year award and then got his butt kicked the first time he had a chance to actually be on the sidelines coaching for a playoff game. He got his butt kicked by D'Amico Ryans in Houston, Texas, with a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud. Got boat raced too. It wasn't even close. Got his butt spanked. It wasn't close. So that's the same thing I'm saying with Kenny. It's like, all right, you won Coach of the Year, and then you got boat raced by the Indiana Pacers. Basically, Tyrese Halliburton. And again, it was similar, Nesmith just going off, just splashing threes, and you ain't got no defense to stop it. or you ain't got no defense to stop Tyrese Halliburton. But Dean Wade's such a great defender, though. And you refuse to, you know what I'm saying, try to lean on anybody else, you know, as much as you do him. So, like, you know, all of this, like, analytical babble and just, you know, like, misdirection, I don't think that leads to you getting to where you want to get to, which I think is supposed to be winning the NBA championship, right? Or at least making it to the finals. Because, you know, you were lucky in a lot of ways this year. A lot of ways. You were lucky. Like that Detroit Pistons series, you were lucky. So the Toronto Raptors, you were lucky, man. You had game 7 at home. You were lucky. The Detroit Pistons, I believe the only reason that you beat them is just because they don't have nobody to make no shot outside of Cade Cunningham. The only other person make shots is Duncan Robinson. And I ain't saying Duncan Robinson no lame or nothing like that, but Duncan Robinson is your number 2 option. You're struggling. Okay, the well running dry. So I'm just saying, like, it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying, like the Pistons was built on defense. Like, and they just couldn't, game 7, they couldn't put the ball in the basket. That's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how you ended up winning. Like, you know, you got a favorable situation that happened for you right there. Because if the Detroit Pistons had one other player that could put the ball in the basket, you wouldn't have beat them. Like, we can't, you know, I understand we can't change history, you know, we won, but we gotta live. We looking at everything in totality now that the season is over. If the Pistons had one other player that could put the ball in the basket, you wouldn't have beat them. So the Toronto Raptors not going nowhere. The Detroit Pistons are not going anywhere. The Charlotte Hornets kind of made an emergence slightly this past season. The Atlanta Hawks fought for a little while. Like, that's 4 teams already. That's not including the Boston Celtics is going to have Jason Tatum. The Indiana Pacers is going to have Tyrese Halliburton. Then you got to see the New York Knicks again, the team that's just in the final. That's 8 teams right there. The Philadelphia 76ers, who knows if Embiid comes back healthy and what they do with Tyrese, you know, how Tyrese Maxey and Edgecombe may look going into next season. So to think that it's just like this guarantee that we'll have this same situation be able to happen for us next year, I don't think so. I'm not so sure. Not to say that it can't happen, you know, that we shouldn't think like that, but I see a much tougher path next year as opposed to what happened this year. This year it was kind of set up for you to be able to kind of just walk up there. Next year, I don't necessarily see that being the case, man. We got players coming back from injury. We got teams that are going to be able to build on, you know, what they did this current season, where they feel like they took a step forward. And now they maybe feel like they could compete with a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Orlando Magic, look at them. They're not going anywhere. They fired their coach and hired a new one because they feel like they feel like they can get better and will get better. So you got teams to be worried about over here in the Eastern Conference, man. So, you know, I'll close by saying this, man. I am really at a crossroad where I find it hard to see where the positive is going to come from, what we have to look forward to for the next season. Like, what are we, you know, are we going to win another regular season championship? You know, yeah, well, we'll win another 64 games and then what? Get bounced in the second round by the Boston Celtics? And then what? Then you want to fire Kenny Atkins? Then you want to fire Kenny Atkinson then? Why? When you had a chance to fire him this year, it's the same thing I said with Kevin Stefanski. Before you had a chance to do that year 6, at the end of year 5, you should have got rid of Buddy then. But you was just, oh, well, you know, Ken Dorsey's fault. We're going to bring him back and let him run his stuff and whoop, whoop, whoop. And then Buddy went out there and showed you he was a pumpkin. Kenny's a great coach. I just think he's a better assistant coach. You know, he's probably a great coach that can get you, you know, the regular season championship. But when we talking about reaching the NBA finals and dare I say winning an NBA championship, I don't see it. Not with him at the helm and not with the attitude that seems to be resonating from Kobe Altman on down. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think the gentleman who was above Kobe, I think the president of basketball operations, the president of basketball operations, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the guy that left and went to the Philadelphia 76ers. I gotta, I'm gonna do my research and everything because, uh, you know, what's gonna be coming forward is, you know, we got to start looking at what could potentially be happening with players on the team, considering we know that the moves that are to be made, you know, in that statement that Dan Gilbert made, you know, the moves or whatever that need to be made because we're, you know, we're nowhere near where we want to be or whatever. Well, clearly the moves wasn't the coach. So we're going to have to see, I guess, maybe whatever they do with the roster changes. But even if you do make roster changes, you got a coach that like shows affinity to certain players and doesn't like to expand his roster in times where it's needed outside of injury. So if you ask me, man, I think we need a change attitude wise. Probably starting with the GM and then trickling down from there. I think maybe that's why we got this soft moniker about ourselves, man, and why sometimes we look soft and other times maybe we don't. And can't really quite solidify and stamp a we're not soft anymore. Cause seems like this Kobe and Kenny thing is like it's radiating soft throughout the locker room, throughout the organization. We'll see going forward. Dogs on the couch, signing off.